As the story continues, we see that Iris is unable to do anything, and is forced to stay outside the academy along with the guards. Meanwhile, Sherry fine-tunes the artifact, and uses the secret door to head into the tunnels. But before she enters, she recalls seeing the death of her mother as a child. Lutheran comforted her, stating her mother was a great researcher and offered to raise her as he supported her mother's research. Now, Sherry hopes to repay him. Cid leaves, and Sherry heads into the tunnels alone. The cult boss wonders why Rex is taking so long. Some of the terrorists then start shooting the students for fun, but Rose tells the students not to do anything, as without magic, they won't stand a chance. Also she senses a high magical energy from the boss. Meanwhile, Sherry reaches the auditorium and sees the cult boss holding the Eye of Avarice. She activates the artifact and throws it, which disables the magic blocking field. At that moment, Rose attacks one of the terrorists, stating their magic is back, and tells the students to fight back. As the fight continues, Rose realizes that she doesn't have her full magic power, and plans to defeat the boss before she runs out of magic power, but the terrorist attacks her. Just when she thinks it's over for her, Cid comes to her rescue with a badass entry. The Shadow Garden members also appear and engage the terrorists. The cult boss leaves but activates a system that causes the auditorium and the rest of the school to burst into flames. After that, Iris asks her men to put out the fire and sees that the students are outside and okay. She asks Rose what happened, and Rose explains that once their magic was back, an organization called Shadow Garden came and killed the terrorists, but they were also calling themselves Shadow Garden. Meanwhile, we see that Sherry couldn't find her father at the auditorium and wonders where he is. After that, we see the cult boss burning some books. Just then, Cid appears and asks why Lutheran is dressed like that. The cult boss removes his helmet, revealing he is indeed Lutheran, and wonders how Cid knows that. Cid states it was obvious from the moment he saw him and asks why he did this. Lutheran explains that once he reached the top of the sword-fighting world, he became sick and easily lost all the glory he fought hard to attain. He started searching for a way to cure his disease and found potential in a certain artifact. He funded Sherry's mother's research and eventually found the artifact he longed for. However, Sherry's mother stated the Eye of Avarice was dangerous and wanted to give it to the government for safekeeping. It is then revealed that it was Lutheran who killed Sherry's mother, as he wanted the artifact for himself. Sherry didn't realize it was him and continued her mother's research. Cid wonders if Lutheran used Sherry for his selfish reasons, and he confirms it. Cid then explains he doesn't care about what happens to anyone else, but suggests they start before someone else comes. Cid and Lutheran then face each other, but in an instant, Lutheran cuts Cid, and he falls through the window. As he's about to leave, Shadow arrives. Luther knows that he's no match for Shadow, so he pulls out the Eye of Avarice, and combines it with its control unit. As he does, he starts overflowing with magical energy and feels reborn. Lutheran then starts attacking Shadow. However, Shadow easily blocks his attacks without even moving from his spot. Lutheran decides to get serious and attacks Shadow, but he ends up getting cut by him. As Lutheran continues his attack, he tells him that he made sure Shadow Garden is blamed for all of this, and they will be hunted by everyone. Shadow finds that hilarious and explains that he doesn't care about being depicted as good or evil, as he is a psycho MC who walks his own path. He doesn't care if he's blamed for all the crimes of the world, and will continue to do what he must. Shadow then disarms Lutheran and proceeds to stab his limbs. He then recalls how Lutheran stated he killed Sherry's mother and stabs him the same way, killing him. At that moment, Sherry arrives and sees her dead father and starts crying over his body. Shadow thinks it's better if he doesn't tell her about her mother and leaves. Shadow is labeled as an enemy of the kingdom and is wanted for mass murder, kidnapping, arson, and robbery. Gamma tells Alpha about what Shadow told Lutheran. Alpha thought they stood for righteousness, but Shadow doesn't seem to see it that way, and thinks that they must live up to his resolve. She tells Gamma to assemble the available 7 shadows. The academy gets closed for an earlier summer break due to all the damages. Sherry thanks Cid for his help the other day, and tells him that she decided to go study abroad in Laogas. She wished that she'd have more time to have plot development with Cid, but Cid tells her they can do that next time. Before leaving, he asks her what she plans to do, but she tells him it's a secret and leaves. As the summer break started earlier, most students decided to head home, having nothing to do at the academy. Cid decides to stay in the dorm, and uses his Spider-Man abilities to avoid his crazy sister, but soon realizes he doesn't have anything to do there either. Just then, he receives a pigeon post from Alpha, informing him about the sacred land, Lindworm. Meanwhile, back in the Shadow Garden residence, Epsilon uses her slime magic to make her plot bigger. She recalls how Shadow saved her and granted her slime magic, which allows her to change her form at will and defy her fate of having a smaller plot. We then see Beta, who is struggling to write a novel about how Shadow defeated Xenon, and decides to get some fresh air outside. Beta ends up meeting Epsilon, who tells her that lately Shadow has been staring at her, especially her huge plot. Beta doesn't believe this, but Epsilon states that since Beta has a bigger plot than hers, she must have also received Shadow's attention. Epsilon playfully teases Beta, wondering if she hasn't received similar gazes from Shadow. Just then, Nu arrives and informs them that they have a new assignment from Alpha. Iris and Alexia visit Gamma's store, to prepare for Alexia's trip to the Sacred Land, where she will be a special guest for the goddess's trial. Alexia intends to use this opportunity to speak with the Archbishop and investigate dark rumors related to corruption and missing orphans. Gamma introduces herself as Luna, the president of the establishment, after which Alexia explains the purpose of their visit. She requests to see some more casual clothing, suitable for everyday wear rather than her trip. Alexia hesitates to specify, but Gamma quickly understands her intentions. She proceeds to show them some panties, commonly known as thongs. Iris is shocked seeing them as they barely cover anything, but Gamma mentions that men like them, and it's good for plot development. Iris is against the idea, but Alexia likes them and is confident she will look good in them. She ends up trying them, and manages to convince Iris to let her buy them. We are then cut to the scene from the terrorist attack where Rose heard that Cid is alive and rushed to find him. She discovers him covered in bandages and believes that he must have survived because of his deep love for her. She accepts his love, and tells him that she will give him her heart. Back in the present, Cid and Rose are traveling together on a train towards the Sacred Lands. Rose is clinging to him, while Cid is trying to get some space from her. She informs him that it will take them 2 more days to reach their destination and suggests that they use this time for some plot development. Cid realizes that it was a mistake to take the train, as he had initially planned to run there faster during the night. Unfortunately, Rose found him at the station and insisted on accompanying him. Rose then asks Cid if he plans to take the goddess's trial, and he confirms it, thinking that's probably why Alpha summoned him there. Knowing that she is a princess, Rose thinks that their relationship will face opposition from others but hopes that Cid successfully completes the goddess's trial. This would enable her to speak to her father about their relationship. Until then, she can't reveal their relationship to anyone but believes that they can have a happy future if they work hard. Later that night, Rose attempts to develop the plot with Cid. However, Cid, being the typical MC, hides from her and decides not to unsheath his Excalibur. Upon reaching Lindworm, Cid notices many keychains with left arms. Rose explains that according to the local legend, Olivier cut off the left arm of the demon Diablos. Somewhere within the nearby mountains lies the ruins known as the Sanctuary, where it is said that Diablo's left arm is sealed. Walking around, Rose notices a signing event featuring the popular novelist named Natsume, renowned for her tremendous imagination and original content. Rose is a big fan of hers, so they decide to join the line. Cid takes the opportunity to check out some of Natsume's books and comes across titles like I Am a Dragon, Romeo and Julieta, Asherella, Little Crimson Riding Hood, Star It's a Trap Wars, One Purse, Dragon Bowl, and the last one is the name of this show, but he can't read it. He quickly realizes that these titles are plagiarized and suspects that someone else may have reincarnated like him. He decides to join the line to find out who this is. To his surprise, he discovers that Beta is posing as Natsume, using his wisdom to gain fame. Cid recalls that Beta had expressed her love for literature, so he shared a few stories from his past life with her. He had hoped she would use them as inspiration for a cool story, but she ended up stealing them. Beta signs a book for Cid and hands it to him, mentioning that it contains all the details of the mission. After that, Rose shows her book to Cid, explaining that Beta wrote her name in it. They wonder about the autograph Beta left for Cid, but they are both surprised to find that it's written in an ancient language. Rose has some knowledge of the language but can't fully decipher it. She questions why Beta wrote it this way, and Cid suggests it might be because it looks cool. We then see Alpha, who is standing next to Archbishop Drake's lifeless body, thinking what secrets he might have held that even the man of his high status was murdered. Cid notices a man running on a rooftop and catches him. The man launches an attack, but Cid easily blocks him with an ice cream spoon. Just then, Epsilon appears on the scene and eliminates the man. She informs Cid that their target has been taken out by the cult's executioner. While they've dealt with the henchman, the executioner has gone into hiding. She tells him that they will be moving to Plan B, and Cid informs her that he will be proceeding with his own plans. As he walks away he thinks that Epsilon is a proud woman, and he could tell because of the amount of slime she put into her giant assets. After that, we see Cid going to the hot springs, as it's one of the things he likes. He enters the hot spring, and Alexa is already there too. He wonders why she is in Lindworm, and she explains that she is a special guest for the goddess's trial. Alexa asks him the same question, and he explains that a friend invited him for the goddess trial, but he doesn't know what it is. Alexa explains that it's a fighting ritual held once every year when the door to the sanctuary is open. Ancient warriors come out of the sanctuary to fight against the challengers they deem worthy. She also tells him about the murder of the archbishop, whom she was supposed to audit, but she can't share the details with an outsider. She tries to recruit him into the Crimson Knights, but Cid is not interested. Alexia expected Cid to be ogling her, but he is not interested in the plot development, and tells her to stop trying to check out his Excalibur. Alexia mocks him by saying that what he has there is probably just a worm, but Cid tells her not to judge a book by its cover, as what she thought was a worm could be a sword contained in its sheath, and stands up. Alexia is shocked to see his full plot armor, and he tells her that when the sword is unsheathed, it sets off on a quest for chaos, and shows her a towel trick before leaving. After that, we see the acting Archbishop Jack Nelson, who is welcoming everyone for the goddess trial. Alexia remembers that he called off her audit as the original archbishop passed away. He told them to leave church matters to them and asked her to enjoy the trials. Alexia suspects Nelson as the prime murder suspect, and plans to get authorization from her father again, but she thinks that by the time she gets it, all the evidence will probably be disposed of. Just then, she notices people cheering for Beta, who is sitting beside her. She is jealous of Beta's giant cannons, and believes girls like her are the most corrupt on the inside. Beta gives her a cold look, and thinks that Alexia is not worthy of being in her next novel. She is also jealous of how close Alexia was with Cid, and thinks that girls like her are the most corrupt ones. It seems that Alexia has sensed her feelings, and she stomps her feet in frustration. After that, Nelson activates a magic seal, and the trial begins. The first contender is from Oriana Kingdom, Top Baterius. Two people from the audience sitting behind Cid explain that if a warrior is summoned, you can't leave the barrier around the arena until one of them is defeated. If anyone manages to defeat the ancient warrior, they would receive a medal that grants them entry into any knight order in the world. Top challenges a warrior, but no one comes out. After that, a few other challengers come in, but no warriors emerge to face them. Meanwhile, Cid wonders if it would be cool to enter as Shadow, showing off his skills, and then disappear, leaving people to wonder about the mysterious man. Some time passes, and Cid is getting bored, as so far, only a person named Enrose has managed to summon the warrior. Just then, his name is announced as the next challenger, and people think this student must be strong to challenge the warriors. Cid wonders if he should go, as the ancient warriors usually match the strength of those that come out, so it may be revealed that he is quite strong. However, if he refuses, the academy may expel him. Cid then creates a light above the arena to confuse everyone, and then jumps in as Shadow. He activates the seal, and Nelson is shocked as it got activated even though he didn't activate it. A person emerges from the seal, and Beta recognizes her as Aurora, the Witch of Calamity. However, there isn't much information about her due to the chaos and destruction that followed her. Beta then asks Nelson to tell her more about Aurora, and he couldn't refuse after seeing the giant plot in front of him. He states that Shadow is unfortunate to have summoned her, as she is the most powerful witch in all of history. Alexa, on the other hand, disagrees, stating that if Aurora came, then Shadow's powers must have reached her level. Shadow and Aurora face each other, both with excited smiles as they start their battle. They both enjoy the fight, with Shadow initially observing and skillfully evading all of Aurora's attacks. He enjoys the battle but realizes that Aurora can't use her full power. He defeats her with a single slash, expressing his wish that she could have fought at her full strength. Shadow then flies off, leaving everyone shocked that he won the battle. The barrier breaks, and a magical door appears in the middle of the arena. Cid feels satisfied, believing that people will now talk about Shadow and forget about the student named Cid. However, a magical door then appears next to him. He tries to move away, but the door follows him. Realizing that he won't be able to escape, he decides to enter it. Nelson wonders if the sanctuary has responded to Shadow's call and explains that the door appears to those who are worthy to pass through it. The door starts opening, and Nelson gives orders to remove the citizens and cancel the trial. He then attempts to make the girls leave, but just then, Shadow Garden appears, led by Alpha. She asks Alexia and Rose not to do anything until the door is closed, and then enters the door. Epsilon appears, having already defeated Nelson's guards, and states that he will be going inside the gate with them but asks the girls to remain here. Other Shadow Garden members appear, and they take Beta as a hostage. Nelson refuses and calls his guard, Venom, to kill Epsilon. Venom attempts to strike Epsilon, but the slash ends up cutting her fake slime-filled plot. Epsilon is furious, not wanting to be exposed. She quickly reattaches them and slices Venom into pieces. She then asks Nelson if he saw anything, but he claims he didn't see anything. Epsilon grabs him and jumps into the door. The door starts to close, but Alexa and Rose jump in as well. They fall on top of Beta, who wonders if Alexia is grabbing her giant plot out of curiosity. Just then, Alpha appears, and Alexia claims she tripped and fell into the door, but Alpha doesn't care about it. She explains that they are in the place where Diablo's left arm is sealed. They came to learn more about the cult, and it was revealed that the hero Olivier was actually a girl. Alpha then shows her face, which is the same as Olivier's. Nelson then realizes she was a possessed elf but should have been dead since she wasn't compatible. Alpha states they know the truth behind Olivia and the possessed. They suspect that the cult's goal isn't just to revive the demon, and decide to proceed to see for themselves. Alpha then activates a large door and opens it. Meanwhile, Cid enters a room where Aurora is, and wonders if she summoned him. Aurora states she didn't but states that they had a fun fight. She wonders how he got there, and Cid explains a door showed up and didn't stop following him. He asks her about how to leave the place, but she is not aware about it either. He proceeds to leave, but she asks him to free her, who is in a straitjacket. Cid frees her, and she explains that the sanctuary is a memory prison, created from ancient battles. In order to be free, they need to go to its center and destroy its magical core. Once the core is destroyed, everything will disappear, and he'll be able to leave. She also states that they can't use magic, as it will be absorbed. Cid asks what will happen when she is free, to which Aurora states she will vanish into nothing. Alpha and others see many people working in the facility. Alpha explains that it's the memories of the hero Olivier from long ago. The cult gathered orphan children and used them as guinea pigs for their experiment. Most of the children ended up dying, and only a small group of girls survived. Meanwhile, Cid and Aurora see a memory of young Aurora crying. Aurora believes that to move forward, they need to end this memory. She slaps her younger self, telling her that crying won't change anything, and the memory shatters. Alpha continues to explain that Olivia was one of the compatible children, and they implanted demon cells in her. Nelson confirms they didn't have a choice as they needed power to fight the demon. Alpha proceeds, explaining that once Olivia matured, she was given a mission to extract new cells from Diablos. Olivia remained obedient, believing that if she completed her mission, it would lead to people living in peace. However, no matter how many parts she cut off, the demon still lived. The cult used powerful artifacts to immobilize the left arm and drew its blood for research. They were able to create red pills, but their side effects were too strong and not what the cult wanted. They eventually created pills that granted tremendous power and an ageless body. Alpha points to a man in the memory, and it's Nelson. He reveals that the drug is called the Beads of Diablos. Alpha states it had two flaws, and Alexia thinks that one of them is hair loss, as Nelson is bald now. However, he mentions that it was just because of stress. Alpha then mentions that the first flaw is that they needed to take the beads once a year, or the effect would disappear. The second flaw is that they could only produce 12 quantities in a year, explaining why the Knights of Rounds have only 12 members. To this day, they have not perfected the drug, and believe the key to that was the demon's arm and the hero's descendants with Olivia's blood. Alpha then asks Nelson, referring to him as the 11th of the rounds, if she is correct. Nelson confirms and reveals himself as Nelson the Avaricious. He tries to transform, but in that moment, Delta stabs him from behind and throws him down into the water. Nelson emerges from the water, breaking the memory, and they all get separated into different groups. He multiplies himself, facing Alpha and Delta. This is where the video ends. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next part.